Welcome to 3 Point Play Sports, home of everything sports fantasy betting and reality. I've got my buddy here, Kyle Verska. I'm Lewis Stanridge, and we are doing NFL Pick'em Week 4. And just to recap last week, I went 7-9. You went
8-8, man.
I s-
Get behind me.
I think if you had gone 2-14 again, we would have had to stop.
How does last place feel?
Last place out.
Well, you were second out of two. That's last place.
Well, I think that's split. I've got to be up 2-1 on you, right? Did you win
You
week
are
one?
you are up 2-1.
I think the overall standings are really what matter. You can win all the weeks. I'll win the
The
season.
season is young.
Yeah, and just quickly recap our locks before we jump into the schedule.
I don't know that you really want to do that. I went 0-3. I had the Pats, Raiders, and Bucks. You had Bengals, Jags, Niners, and went 1-2.
Perfect. Okay.
Really heavy on the Jags last week for you. You had them as your dog of 3.5 or more to win outright. They did not win.
Right.
I had the Eagles. That also didn't happen. We did both hit Thursday, though. We had Carolina. Highest scoring team, I had Cardinals. You had Niners. I won that. The Bills were overall. And then week-to-week bets, you had Kyle Pitts 100-plus receiving yards. I don't think he had a catch until 2.5 minutes to go in the entire game. I had Seahawks Vikings 7-plus passing touchdowns. They had 4.
Yeah. Well,
So, your week.
I'm going to click off you real quick. I need to pull up the Pigskin Pick'em, which I thought I had up, and I botched that, but that's my fault.
Yeah, rookie mistake. You haven't been doing this for 3 or 4 weeks.
All right, so currently leading our group overall, I'm around 96 percentile, and I'm sure you're up there too.
I'm up there in the opposite direction.
4 percentile?
Somewhere around there.
Great.
No, I'm like 50.
Cool.
Something like that.
All right, well, another week to be better. Kicking us off Thursday night, the bane of our existence, the one throwaway that I think we have on this pod, because it's so wonky. It's something else. But I think we might end up splitting this. Jacksonville Jaguars 0-3 on this season on the road to play Cincinnati Bengals 2-1. Jaguars, I thought they were going to, through halftime, it looked promising, right? Kick 6, ends the half, Kingsbury egg on his face, and it just doesn't hold up. Just pick after pick with Trevor Lawrence, and then you go on the road to face the Bengals. Bengals coming off that sweet win in Pittsburgh last week. They're 2-1, and despite the misgivings of Zach Taylor, who do you like?
Well, if you're saying we're going to split this, and I think that means you're taking the Jaguars, because I'm taking the Bengals. I want no part of the Jaguars until they stop turning the ball over 4 times.
Yeah, that's no surprise because I do feel like the Jaguars, it feels like a contrarian take. If you look on the right side, Jags getting 30% of the bets, 43% of the money, so it looks like it's not really a full contrarian, not as like a 20% or less bet. But
It's just a half contrarian?
yeah, the thing for me is that the Jags, I think they can put up a fight, and I think this is more about why are the Bengals 7.5 point favorites over anybody. I mean, if they end up losing this game, I'm not calling it like I did last week, but if they end up losing this game, would we be that shocked? Because it is the Bengals, it is Zach Taylor, and it's a Thursday night, and we have not yet had a dog win outright on Thursday night. We have not yet had a home team cover Thursday night. So we may get one of those two on this Thursday.
So the Bengals are 2-1 and tied for the lead in the division. I think that's kind of important.
Yeah. For now.
Look, man, I need the Jaguars to not be a complete dumpster fire before I'm ready to back them. I don't think the Bengals are world beaters by any stretch of the imagination, but they are better than the Jaguars and have more competence up and down the board than Jacksonville. So
That's fair.
Jacksonville on the road, 0-3, just constantly having the gun aimed at their own feet. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars are heading towards a season where they cover maybe 4 or 5 times out of 17.
I wonder if we can place a bet of who the top 2 picks will be, and it's got to be Jaguars and Jets again.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly looking like that. Philly's got Miami's pick and Indy's pick in their own, so they have 3 shots at a top 10 pick. Would you take Bengals for eliminator? Just go ahead and get it out of the way.
I would think about it long and hard. The only thing that gives me pause is it's Thursday, which I think 2 weeks ago I had Washington on Thursday and sweated that out until the whistle blew. So I don't want to go through that again. I wouldn't blame anybody if they did, but I think maybe betting against the Jets this week is a better idea. That way you don't have to worry about Thursday.
Well, we have had all 3 road teams cover, and I think a big part of that is there's a tendency to favor the rested team at home, but because it's early in the season, you almost get that value with the road team. So I think if this were like a 3.5, 4.5, I'd probably take the Bengals, but because I'm getting the touchdown plus a hook, get the back door, potentially at the end of the game, like they almost did with the Cardinals, that's something. On to Sunday. Washington still to be named franchise. 1-2 on the season. On the road to face the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons here plus 1.5 home underdogs. And I believe this is I don't have the money line numbers pulled up right now, but definitely in terms of spreads, Washington is getting 81% of the money. Falcons, of course, 19%. I'm going a little bit chalk on this one. I'm going to go Washington. A lot of this has to do with Washington played worse last week, and this is probably going to be a repetitive thing for me this week, is Washington was a team that definitely did not play up to their skill level last week. Their defense has been disappointing this far into the season. I'm sure they're hearing all about it. Chase Young should be able to eat this offensive line alive. Atlanta Falcons, despite how good they looked against Tampa Bay, are dead last in DVOA, I think, offensively. And I just don't – I lean more towards, even though the rule is to take the short home underdog, I have to think it would be completely shocking to me if Washington dropped this and went to 1-3.
Would it, since they're just rolling Heineke out there?
He's been competent, though. The thing is like Matt Ryan is washed, is he not? Are you subscribing to that? Matt Ryan is washed, or you think he's still got something?
I mean, he certainly has not played well. I think I can say that with some confidence. But Washington has been one of the 5 biggest disappointments so far, and I know a lot of that has to do with their playing Taylor Heineke, but I just haven't seen anything that makes me feel good about them. Their defense has definitely been completely overrated coming into this season. They just lost by 22. I know it's to the Bills, but they beat the Giants by 1 again at the very final tick of the clock. I just don't have any confidence in Washington.
Can't blame you. So you're on Atlanta for this one?
I'm taking Atlanta, yeah.
Okay, we're split that one. So we're splitting the first 2. This one's a tough one. You got Houston Texans, 1-2 on the season, on the road to face Buffalo Bills, but they are 2-1 in their respect. Minus 16.5, by far the biggest spread I believe we've seen this far into the season. Of course, Davis Mills, I believe, is still the quarterback for the Texans. Bills, of course, whipped Washington last week. Who do you like?
The Bills have won their last 2 games by a combined 57 points. That's a lot, Lewis. I don't know if you can do math, but that's a lot.
Right.
are they really going to just blow 3 straight teams out of the water? Is Buffalo back to the final 4 or 5 games that they were last season when they were just annihilating everybody? I usually just default when it's this many points to taking the points because it's pro football and it's really hard to blow a team out. So I'm gonna take the Texans plus 60.5. It's just too many points for me.
I've flipped back and forth on this one probably 10,
It's a tough one.
10 times. My initial thought was, 1, that's a lot of points. Yes, generally you just want to go with the points. 2, neutral game script, they will run the ball heavily. The Texans will, leading towards a shorter game. So this, at least if anything, will be probably an under the total game. More so because they're having to lean on Mills as their quarterback. You don't want him to have to throw as much. But because of that, my thinking evolved into, okay, if they're going to be that limited offensively, and we kind of know what to expect, even if you weren't loading the box, I think you can get away with loading the box against that run, because then he's having to throw against these stellar corners in the Bills, and that spells trouble for me. And so I'm just having trouble thinking the Texans will get past 10 points. I think the Bills can get to 24-27, and I think they just barely get there. I think it's like a 27-10 game. So I think they run it out one more time. The other hesitation I do have is next week is Bills-Chiefs. Is this a look-ahead game where they get caught in a trap?
Feels like a classic look-ahead game to me. The Texans have been frisky, and what would this line be if it was Tyrod Taylor? 9.5?
Yeah, and I would be all over. I would be all over the Texans.
Yeah, so I think that ushering in Mills, his first start was a Thursday night, so they've had this long layoff. They've gotten a lot of practice in. I don't expect him to be good by any stretch of the imagination, but they held the Panthers to 24. And that was while they just weren't doing anything offensively. So I'm thinking Bills look ahead. It's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Just kind of sneak one in and lose by 15.
I will say the Texans' defense doesn't seem to be the worst in the league like it was last year. It seems to be like 20-25.
Yeah. I think they just barely sneak it in there and lose by 15.
Yeah. Well, and spoiler, that's probably my eliminator pick for the week, because honestly, I can't think of a single game other than that I have half the confidence.
Likes the Jets versus the Titans.
Spoiler. Next game up, the Detroit Lions 0-3 on the road to face the Chicago Bears. Bears are 1-2. They are minus 2.5. Lions definitely put up a fight. Their throat ripped out by Justin Tucker, and the Bears were completely dismembered by the Browns. So you've got a gut punch and a decapitation facing each other this week. Who do you like?
Do we know who's starting for the Bears at quarterback?
Take your pick. Maybe all three. They'll just rotate series.
Oh man, I still can't get over what the Bears did last week. It's impossible to have 47 yards for a game as a pro football team. It's impossible, Lewis. That was
net one positive passing yard.
One passing yard, yeah, one net passing yard. It's truly remarkable what they did. They can't be that bad again, right? They can't be.
You tell me.
I really came into this wanting to pick the Lions, but I think this is like everybody's just like, oh, all of the people who are like us are just like, oh my God, the Bears, what an embarrassment. We can't pick them. Lol, they're going to lose to the Lions. So I'm going with the Bears. I'm going the other way.
Here's the thing for me is I shared the same initial thinking. They can't be this bad again. The thing for me, though, is the big red flag is the fact that Nagy ran the same Dalton offense with Justin Fields. The fact that happened leads me to believe, or confirms for the 10th time that Nagy does not know what he's doing. And I'm thinking Lions on the other side, they've been fighting teams week after week after week. Look, week one.
But how many times can they keep this up?
That's what I'm saying. I think this is when they break through. I think they're eventually going to break through, and they're going to win their game. On the flip side, you have to think the Bears, how many more weeks can they keep going with Nagy? At some point, this team is just effing over it, right? Allen Robinson has been completely underutilized this far into the season. He's got to be completely frustrated. The fact that they ran the offense the way they did last week, I tend to think like there's one thing about being embarrassed and not wanting to be embarrassed again, but I think there's a secondary thing about just being out on your coach. And I think if they lose this game, we are very well looking at Nagy possibly getting fired. And
if they lose home against the Lions, like it's very possible, depending on like how bad it is.
And then that's great. Then they can move on to somebody who actually knows what they're doing. I think the Lions, credit to Dan Campbell, they fight every game. They've got a very good offensive line. Swift, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson, they'll be able to move the ball on this Bears defense. The only question is, how competent can the Bears offense be? You're counting more so on the Bears flipping the script offensively than the way that Lions have been fighting the first 3 weeks.
I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of positive regression for the Bears. You can't have 49 yards this week.
You can have they'll get 53, 55. You tell me right now, what's your over-under on offensive yardage?
Probably 249.5.
Okay, I'll take the under on that one.
All right. Okay, there we go. There's our side bet of the week.
All right. So we're split on that one. We're just going to split a bunch of these. It's going to bode poorly from one of us probably. Next game up, the Carolina Panthers 3-0 on the road to face the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys here -4.5. Took a very commanding lead and decisive victory over the Eagles. Of course, the Panthers, one of the best and biggest surprises of the season so far. This is another one that's been super tough for me, so I'm just going to roll with the underdog. I'm going to take the Panthers here +4.5. The thing for me that I keep thinking is that I feel like we brought this up last week. The Cowboys are disguising how limited Dak is. Like, if you look at his box score last week, it wasn't that great. And they are surprisingly leaning very, very heavily on the run. And I think the Panthers' run defense is very much a strength. I think we've also seen this Cowboys defense play way over their head. And I think a lot of that has to do with luck with turnovers. I think they lead the league in turnovers, and part of that is 4 turnovers in week 1 against the Bucs. But I don't know if that trend can continue. So I'm going to take the Panthers. I'm still not 100% sold on the Panthers, so I think next week I may fade them. But I'm going to take them with that rush defense. I think this will be a close game, +4.5.
Sorry about that sneeze. I could only get my camera off. I couldn't get the audio off.
Yeah, I heard it. Nice.
Strange. I think this is. Can we have our yearly talk about how dumb QBR is?
I don't even look at it.
Dak Prescott had 5 incompletions, threw for 238 yards, 3 touchdowns. What do you think his QBR was?
No clue. 10?
37.8. It makes no sense. It's because they were blowing Philly out. He had nothing to do with it. It's so dumb. I'm locking the Panthers.
All right.
Cowboys, big, huge emotional blowout win over the Eagles at home. Short week, probably feeling themselves a little bit. Panthers playing really well. I love the Panthers here.
Great. Darnold's
long layoff for them. Give me the Panthers.
All right. Next game up, Indianapolis Colts 0-3 on the road to face Miami Dolphins 1-2, -1.5. I feel like that's a little disrespectful to Jacoby Brissett, but who do you like in this one?
This is the Jacoby Brissett revenge game, right?
Sure. Who's getting revenge on who?
I'm going to take the Dolphins here. Their defense is really good, and the Colts offense has shown absolutely nothing through 3 games. And until we see something out of them, I can't trust the Colts. You and I talked about it before the season. It's why did it have to be Carson Wentz? Anybody but Carson Wentz, and it has not been good. The Dolphins, at the same time, they've underwhelmed so far, but got to think that they'll be better with another week for Brissett. So I still like the Dolphins' defense, but it's really a pick against the Colts here. I need to see something from the Colts before I can pick them.
I really hate myself for doing this, but I'm going to take the Colts. I think the big thing that they can do that they really probably haven't been able to do, are you sneezing again?
Sorry, man.
Is run the ball and rely less on Carson Wentz. I think you couple that with the fact that this team has spent, 2-3 seasons with Jacoby Brissett. They know him inside and out. They know his weaknesses, his tendencies. Couple that with the fact that he hyper-targeted Jalen Waddle last week, so that's probably that what his number one target is going to be, and with a limited quarterback that's typically going to go with the first read, I think you can scope the defense in that direction. So I think this is a low-scoring game, but I'm going to rely on a Jonathan Taylor breakout and very much fly in the face of the fact that Quentin Nelson is out. I think Kwity Paye got himself injured last week. Look, this might be the last week for a while that I back the Colts, but I just think the rush offense versus the Dolphins' rush defense is a juicy, underrated matchup here. And
But they're averaging just over 4 yards a carry. It's not like they're running the ball really well. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's averaging 4 yards. It hasn't been good. So I mean, that's what you got to hope for, I guess, taking the Colts in this game. But you say you won't take the Colts for a while. I mean, everybody talked about the Colts these first 5 games, just absolutely brutal. But after these 5, it's Texans, Niners, Titans, Jets, Jaguars. So you'll take the Colts again here pretty soon.
Do we have a timeline on Tyrod? Because that Texans game is a maybe. I think I always like taking the opposite action in the divisional rematch. So the fact that they lost to the Titans, I may lean on them against the Titans, but if Tyrod is playing, I'm not taking him against the Texans.
All right. Fair enough for me.
But, we'll talk about it when we get there. At least for this week, I'm on the Colts and ready to feel stupid about that later.
No timeline for return of Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. Is this just something where they hide him in a locker because they want to tank the rest of the season? I
really thought you were going to make a Chargers-Doctors joke there.
I've done it enough already this season. Cleveland Browns, 2-1 on the road to face Minnesota Vikings, 1-2. Finally getting a win last week in an impressive fashion. Browns, of course, no Jarvis Landry, but Odell Beckham is his second game back. Vikings, maybe with or without Dalvin Cook. Maybe not. Matters if Madison rolls out again. Who do you like in this one?
I don't know. I think I'm just going to default to the Browns. I think they have nearly as good of an offense as the Vikings, and then a much better defense. So this feels like a classic Kirk Cousins. Everybody's saying I'm pretty good, and now I'm going to have a huge letdown game. So yes. This is a pure bet against Kirk pick here. This is the type of game like Browns. If you're for real, you come out and you just win this game. So I'm going to stick. I have the Browns as my preseason Super Bowl. What's the word I'm looking for here? Team from the AFC. So let's. I'm not backing off that yet. So give me the Browns here.
Look, if you remember before Week 1, I said the Browns we both agreed on this. Browns probably going to lose to the Chiefs, and then they're going to go on a run. And so far, that's more or less what's happened. They got challenged by the Texans, but that was a little bit of a, letdown after losing that lead to the Chiefs. To me, this is just going to continue the roll. I think they're going to steamroll the Vikings. I think absolutely 100% echo your point. How many games in a row can Kirk Cousins keep this up? He is inevitably going to take a dump on the field. And I think a lot of people look at this plus 2.5 with the Vikings and they say, oh, look, the Seattle Seahawks came in last week. Vikings were short, home underdogs, worked out well. Let's do it again this week. I think that flip the script, opposite's going to happen. I'm taking the Browns. Next game up, the New York Giants. 0-3 and without any wide receivers that you can name, on the road to face the New Orleans Saints -7.5. They're 2-1. One of the most shocking wins last week for me. But like I said, between these two teams, you've maybe got two solid, healthy wide receivers. I'm going to roll with the Giants here. I think what I've started to piece together is that Daniel Jones is a road quarterback, and he's just going to figure it out like he did against Washington 2 weeks ago. Jameis, much like Kirk Cousins, starting to not like Kirk Cousins, but another quarterback I cannot trust consistently, and we saw him. Did you see the play where he was getting sacked in the red zone, and he just threw it up, and Marquez Callaway got the jump ball, and half the time that gets picked, and he gets chewed out on the sideline. He got completely bailed out. I just think this Giants defense can put up enough, maybe turn over Jameis if he keeps reaching into that well, and Daniel Jones will come up with a 70-yard rushing touchdown.
So you don't know Kenny Galladay? You can't name him?
Yeah.
He's alive.
I mean, what is he doing, though, with his busted hip? Kadarius Toney?
Yeah, he's also alive. So there's two receivers that you know.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the Giants here. The Saints, good for them rolling into New England and winning that game. The Patriots are just a mess on offense, which we'll get to later. But this just feels like too many points. And the Giants, Daniel Jones has played well so far this season, especially for him. He's played well. They just keep losing these close games. They've lost by 1. They've lost by 3. They were in that game against the Broncos, if I remember correctly, until it kind of just fading there at the end. But this just seems like too many points for where the Saints are right now. So I'm with you. I got Giants plus 7.5.
I think, too, we haven't brought it up, but the fact that almost every single favorite hit last week, aside from the Chiefs, I think we are due for some fives.
You mean, like, what? I mean, what do you mean?
Like,
you don't mean 15 favorites hit last week.
No, I mean, more so, I think, what was it, like every favorite of, 6 or more covered last week.
Okay.
And I feel like we're due for one of these touchdown underdogs to pull off an upset. I'm not saying it's going to be this one per se. I'm just thinking...
You think it's going to be the next one?
Take any one of them, and I bet one of them wins. I'm just saying, we didn't really get a parlay buster last week, so between the Giants, the Eagles, the Jaguars, and the Jets, or the Patriots, or the Steelers, you've got 6 options. One of those has to win. Maybe 2. Next game up, the Tennessee Titans. 2-1 on the road to face the New York Jets. They are 0-3, and I think many consider one of the worst teams, if not the worst team. I don't know if you want to take a poll between them and the Jags right now, and the Giants. But Jets here plus 7.5 at home. Titans maybe without Julio, maybe without A.J. Brown. I don't know if we know certainly on either of those two. Maybe it doesn't matter if Derrick Henry just runs it 40 times. Who do you like?
I really want to take the Jets. Like, I really, really, really want to take the Jets.
Do it.
They've scored 20 points in 3 games. They've scored 3 points each of the first halves of these games. They scored 3 points in the first half all season long. Like, there's just nothing there. But I know they've played, like, 2 really good defenses, and then the Patriots, who, like, can play really good defense,
Yeah.
but Zach Wilson was just like, here's the ball. Here's the ball. Please take it.
Right.
The Titans are certainly the worst defense they've played. But we still have seen exactly 0 out of Zach Wilson through these 3 games. They can't run the ball at all. I just don't know how they get it done. I don't. They're not gonna stop the Titans. I mean, it does help that AJ Brown, I think, is out for this game, and Julio Jones might also miss this game. So if they're both out, then I'm probably going to take the Jets, just because what else are the Titans going to do unless they give it to Henry 75 times? So right now I've got the Titans, and it's just because I don't know. The Jets can't keep up.
First lock of the week from me, the New York Jets plus 7.5. No surprise. This is also my upset of the week. I think you've got a leaky defense in the Titans. The Jets are completely, I think, diminished in their perception because they have faced 3 top 12 defenses. I think we can agree in that sense. Look, the offensive line is awful. Might be the worst in the league. Zach Wilson getting pressured more than any other quarterback out there. But the fact is, if there was like 5 defenses that they could get offense moving against, Titans would have to be one of those 5. And I realize they've got Bud Dupree. They've got a couple of guys now. I still think overall that defense sucks. I think it would not be impossible to imagine Corey Davis getting a bomb, Michael Carter maybe ripping off a run. I think you piece it together, and look, you're getting plus 7.5. If the Titans have only one of A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, and that particular one is also not 100%, I think very much you're going to see the Jets defense hold up. And I think they can hold the Titans to like 14 points. So I think the fact that they can hold the Titans to 14 points, Jets can get to 10 to 14, no big deal.
The Jets have scored exactly 6 more points than you and I have the last 2 weeks.
Look, they faced the Broncos, which might be the best defense in the league, and the Patriots, who Jedi mind trick all the rookie quarterbacks.
I get it. I just want to see something.
Sure.
I haven't seen anything from them.
Yeah, well, you'll see it this week.
I might. I very well might.
Yeah. Well, let's see if this is the week we see something from the Chiefs. Chiefs 1-2. First time losing record for Mahomes. On the road to face Philadelphia Eagles, also 1-2, and really, I think, changed a lot of perceptions last week in their loss to Dallas. Eagles here plus 7.5. Chiefs, I believe, have lost 10 straight against the spread, dating back to last season, week 8, I believe. I gotta say, I'm rolling with the Chiefs here. It's super chalky, super public. But the thing is, for me, is at some point, I feel like the Chiefs have to get this monkey off their back and blow out a team. They're too good offensively to just keep every game close. And I understand a lot of that's because of the defense. You're always going to get value from Vegas going against the Chiefs, and that's why they've lost against the spread. But I think the Eagles, I saw like 3 of their starting offensive linemen are out this week. And it's just, Sirianni, I was on the fence with him, but now I'm kind of off. I'm out. I'm out on Sirianni. So give me the Chiefs minus 7.5. Super chalky, I know. It might end up being a stupid game, but I'm going to take it.
I am locking the Chiefs because the Eagles might be the third worst team in the league.
Wow, that bad?
That win they had in Week 1 against the Falcons, 32-6, is on the same level as the Steelers beating the Bills in Week 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those games where it's like, we're going to look back at, like, Week 11 and be like, how the hell did that happen?
Maybe.
They got a huge gift, I think 2 huge gifts against the Cowboys. And one of them was the essentially 0-yard intercept or fumble return for a touchdown. And then they stopped the Cowboys again, but they just can't move the ball. They cannot move the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I know this Chiefs defense isn't good whatsoever, but they're going to have to move the ball in this game to keep up. The Chiefs are every bit as good as the Cowboys, if not better. The Chiefs are going to hang 35 in this one. So are the Eagles really going to put up 28 points? It's tough to see that, so I'm locking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think every week that the Chiefs don't cover, people are going to come back again the next week and bet them. Next week, like I said, they're playing the Bills. You're probably still going to get a lot of action on the Chiefs. Maybe not as much because the Bills, people love playing the Bills too. But at some point, I can't fathom that they're going to go 5-12 against the spread and have 11 wins. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but
I completely agree with you.
On to the next one. Arizona Cardinals 3-0 on the road to face the Los Angeles Rams, also 3-0. So one of these teams is walking out with a division lead and a 4-0 record, unless there's a tie. Got to throw that out there. Rams minus 5.5. Who do you like?
I love the Rams. Cardinals defense, I think, has been some smoke and mirrors here. And the Rams offense has just been burning everybody down. Stafford has been incredible. I apologize to Matt Stafford and the Rams for that, thinking that this wasn't going to be the upgrade that it has been. He's been great. This is by far and away the best offense Arizona's played, and they gave up 33 to the Vikings, who are without a doubt a top third offense in the league. But man, Rams are a whole different animal. Love the Rams here.
This reminds me a lot of if you'll remember the 2 games that Seattle and Arizona played last year, they were both neck and neck, trading blows. This reminds me a lot of that. I think this division is just every game is going to be competitive, and I'm taking the Cardinals plus 5.5. I initially was thinking I have a lot of concerns about the Cardinals secondary, but then I thought I still am not sold on this Rams defense, and I think a lot of people probably saw the Cardinals more or less squeak by the Jaguars last week. At least not, they left a lot to be desired. Whereas the Rams, they're coming off a win against the Bucs. And so you think about perceptions, and it's just just based off recency bias, Rams are as high as can be probably. Whereas the Cardinals, it's I don't know. And so the thing is for me is I'll take the Cardinals plus 5.5. If it's going to be a shootout and it turns out to be a 3-point game, that's what I'm banking on. So I just think these guys are going to trade touchdowns. I'd rather have the points.
Look, I don't blame you, but the Cardinals are going to have to run the ball in this game, and that's a problem.
Sure. All right. Next game up, the Seattle Seahawks, 1-2, coming off 2 straight losses on the road to face San Francisco 49ers, 2-1. Jimmy G still starting, to the surprise of some. And who do you like in this one?
I don't know. I expected so much more out of the Niners against the Packers, and there was just not much there, Lewis. It was a problem. James G was really bad for a long time, and then all of a sudden they had a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
Because the Packers just did nothing for about 2 quarters.
Right.
I don't think that Niners defense is very good.
It's the secondary.
Yeah, I just what did the Seahawks do well, Lewis? They throw the ball well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the Seahawks here plus 2.5. I don't love this pick, but I don't love the Niners giving 2.5 either.
This is a little tough for me, just because the Seattle defense has looked so bad from the second half against the Titans all the way through the whole game last week. I mean, Kirk Cousins, some of the stats from that game, it's like there was a high school defense out there. And the thing for me is I don't know if the Niners can exploit it the way Aaron Rodgers knew how to. Or, I'm sorry, the way that a more competent quarterback knew how to. I'm getting my opponents confused. But basically, I think Seattle can do more to exploit the Niners' secondary than the Niners can do to exploit Seattle. And I think this is very much in line with the Washington thinking in that I have maybe to a lesser extent on Washington, but I have a really hard time thinking a team as good as Seattle and Russell Wilson will drop 3 straight. I think, look, I could envision the narratives if that happens and Russell Wilson being disgruntled dating back to the offseason, but I also think either one of these teams loses, we're probably going to get a narrative. Either Jimmy G is probably his days are numbered, if they weren't already, or Russell Wilson is just completely done with the team and the organization. I take your pick.
Yeah, I'm same boat here. It's I want this to be just a classic game here, but I don't know really looking forward which of these teams that I like more. And so that's a problem because I expected the Seahawks just dumping that game last week was just brutal.
Yeah. So I'm with you on Seattle. Next game up, the Baltimore Ravens 2-1 on the road to face the Denver Broncos 3-0, and a little surprised by this line, but then again, I probably would have been just said this was disrespect on the Broncos if it was any less. So Broncos are -1.5. This one I flipped on it 10 different times because I feel like the Ravens maybe coming off that Chiefs win was a letdown against the Lions, maybe looking ahead to the Broncos. And then on the other side, the Broncos really haven't played anybody too difficult between the Jets and the Giants and who did they play last week? The week before? I don't remember. But they haven't really played any good teams, but they've managed to cover and they've taken care of business.
The Broncos, they played the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets, the Giants. Who's the third team?
I thought that's what you needed. They've played. This is great. The Giants, the Jags, and the Jets.
The Jags, yeah, right. So none of the.
So 3 of the 5 worst teams.
Right, and so it's really hard to gauge how good this team is, and so the tendency is to say, oh, well, they're probably fraudulent. But I think, look, they've taken care of business every time. So as of right now, I'm going to take the Broncos. I still think the Ravens, look, I think they're going to be riding that Chiefs win for a while, but I also think they've got a little bit of issues. And we saw a little bit of that in the Raiders game in week 1. I think we saw a little bit of that in the loss to the Lions last week, or almost lost to the Lions last week. And I think the Broncos, they're a very sound team. I don't think they're going to beat themselves. And I think that defense is going to say, look, nobody believes we're real. We're going to prove it this week.
Lewis, do you know who's missed practice so far this week with a back injury?
Tell me.
Lamar Jackson.
Really?
Do you know?
Is that from flipping in the end zone 2 weeks ago?
Yes. We fucking talked about that. And you were like, oh, no big deal. I loved it. And now he's injured his back and he's missing practice because of it. Great idea, Lamar. Flip into the end zone for no reason.
You remember that, Kyle, when next time you do a flip at work.
Well, I'll just land on some tile, so I'll have a legitimate reason to have been injured. I'm with you on the Broncos on this. Shout out to the Ravens for beating the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. Good for them. Great. I love this Broncos defense. The Broncos seem to have a ceiling of 27 points on offense. Like Teddy Bridgewater has been great. He's been the best version of Teddy Bridgewater. He's like top 5 in QBR. He's like top 4 in yards per attempt and stuff like that. He's been great. But he's still the weakness of the team because they can't put up more than 27 points. I think we've got a low-scoring game here. I like the Broncos to eke out like a 17-13 win.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, a little surprised, but I'm glad we're on the same side there. Next game up, Pittsburgh Steelers 1-2 on the road to face the Green Bay Packers 2-1. Packers here -6.5 home favorites. Steelers coming off that embarrassing loss to the Bengals. Packers on the complete opposite side took care of business and wiped out the Niners in that Sunday night game. This is another surprisingly difficult for me because Mike Tomlin, I think his record as an underdog is highest in the league against the spread, or one of the top 5 highest against the spread. But on the other hand, everything is screaming Packers blowout here. Steelers can't move the ball. Their offense is so limited because Roethlisberger is done. They're without Juju. They might be out without Deontay. So they've got a bottom 3 quarterback. They've got a terrible offensive line. They're down 2 of their top 3 wide receivers. And yet I want to take the Steelers +6.5.
Do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to bank on Tomlin coming up with some magic, and maybe he runs Najee Harris 25 times and
for 2 yards to carry?
Well, I mean, the thing is...
Is Najee Harris the new Melvin Gordon?
I don't know who's... That's not fair to Najee yet. I think the thing is that the Packers' rush defense looked better last week, but I'm not sold. So I think if there's a path to victory or covering, it's the Steelers stopping the run, somehow limiting that pass offense by the Packers, and conversely, running the ball on this Packers rush defense. So
well, I'm glad this was difficult for you because for me, it's I'm not taking the Steelers until further notice.
Fine.
Period. They can't move the ball. It's a problem. If there's anything we know about today's NFL, it's you have to be able to move the ball, and they can't because Roethlisberger is 1.5 step drop, ball out, 2 yards.
Hey, did you see where he slipped on the ground?
No, but I can believe it. Did you see when it was like 4th and 9 deep in their opponent's territory and he threw 2 yards behind the line of the scrimmage to Harris, who picked up 1 yard?
Yeah.
Great play. Good job, veteran quarterback. Give me all the Packers here.
I mean, there's no way Big Ben finishes the season as a starter, right? This can't go on for 17 weeks.
Their backups are Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph.
I know. That's the thing for me though, is that
they can't go back to the Mason Rudolph well. We've seen that.
I mean, I know the answer is yes. They're that bad that like you would rather take a busted Big Ben, but I think that says a lot about how bad their backups are. Every time I see Big Ben struggle, I think, what was the thinking in the offseason? Were you not expecting this? Like, we saw this all last year. Did you just think it was going to be different?
I think the thinking was, please don't retire because our cap sheet will be in hell if you do.
Or at least get a better backup. There were what, like 3 or 4 competent backups? Couldn't have gotten Andy Dalton or somebody?
Why didn't they trade for Gardner Minshew?
Exactly. Good idea.
Yeah.
Next game up, the Sunday night game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, all the storylines with Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski going back to New England. New England here +6.5 home underdogs. They're 1-2, and this is one of the more lopsided picks of the weekend. Who do you like in this one?
Lewis, I'm going back to the well here. I really I really thought, I was like, you know what, Belichick is going to do something in this game. But the problem is the Patriots can't move the football at all. It is a huge struggle for them to sustain any sort of drives. They put up, a respectable point total against the Jets, but the Jets just kept giving them the ball in plus situations. They've scored 54 points through 3 games. Uh, it's a problem. The Bucs are too good, coming off a loss. Tom Brady wants to shove it in Bill Belichick's face. Tom Brady is currently 67 yards short of the all-time passing record. I think he gets it on their second drive of the game, locking the Buccaneers.
Wow. All right, this is great. I don't think we've done this so far this season. I'm locking
Head-to-head lock?
the Patriots. I think this is a great spot. I think, look, as I brought up, this is probably going to be in the afternoon where we're going to see maybe 1 or 2 touchdown favorites as losers. And I think this is a prime spot for people to say, oh, I can't believe the Steelers beat the Packers. Just hypothetical. That busted my parlay. I've got to make up that money somehow. I'm going to chase the Buccaneers -6.5. They're way better. Super Bowl champions. Patriots are ass. I think this is where Vegas doubles up their money because you're probably going to get a touchdown loser in the afternoon. That person's going to chase it. Give me the Patriots +6.5. I think on top of this, we're still very much like the Bucs are very much like the Chiefs, where you're riding the value off the name brand and not so much where that team actually is. And I think if you look at the Buccaneers, their secondary has been one of the worst, surprisingly, in the league so far. That's why this.
You know who definitely has a bottom 5 receiving core?
Yeah, the Patriots. I understand what you're saying, but I think they will get by competently. I think very much also like the Colts and Jacoby Brissett, the Patriots know Tom Brady. And look, I know this goes both ways, but I feel like that is going to lead to a defensive game plan as strong as any for Belichick. And so I think it's going to be a little surprising because obviously I don't think the Buccaneers are going to go in and steamroll. So I think it's going to be a close game, and that's why I'm locking the Patriots.
Do you know who the highest scoring team in the league is?
Is it the Bucs?
It's the Bucs. The only team over 100 points so far. They're 103.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying the Patriots are essentially half of that. They can't move the ball, man. It's a problem.
Look,
Buccaneers defense good.
Yeah, but you can throw on the Bucs
Patriots.
defense. You can throw.
The Patriots need to run the ball, right? They need to run the ball. Who can you not run the ball against?
Yeah.
You've said it, I think, every week so far.
Right. Nobody runs on the Bucs.
Yeah. And so you have to throw on them. Well, who can't throw the ball well?
Look.
The Patriots.
The Mac Jones Rookie of the Year campaign is going to kick up a notch this weekend. So buy your stock now. Buy it.
Mac Jones Rookie of the Year campaign isn't even on the train tracks right now.
Well, it's getting on the train tracks then.
Oh, boy.
Lay in the tracks.
I love the hubris. No way, dude.
Buy the stock.
No way.
Do it. Well,
Tom Brady shoving it.
It's never going to be lower than right now.
I also want to say, I know you didn't mean it this way, but you made it seem that like there's going to be one guy in Vegas who loses the 7.5 bet, so he bets on the Bucs, and the world goes, no, fuck that guy.
Take that guy, multiply him by probably 1,000, and
I know it's not what you meant, but then you just kept saying this guy, and I was like, yeah.
It's an archetype or whatever the phrase that you say.
Yeah, I know. It was just funny.
Maybe it's you. I don't know. You're that guy. Last game of the weekend. God, this is going to be a great one. Las Vegas Raiders 3-0 on the road to face the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers here -3.5. To my surprise, pleasant surprise, they took care of business against the Chiefs last week, and even more so in surprising fashion. I don't think I would have written it up like the way they did. Raiders, they held on, beat the Dolphins last week, despite Brissett just converting fourth down after fourth down. Who do you like in this one?
What the hell were the Raiders doing last week? They had that game sewn up. They had it sewn up. Everything went horribly wrong for them in the first half.
They started going back to last year's Raiders.
Yeah, everything went horrible, and then they just came back, no problem, in complete control of the game, and they're like, you guys, Dolphins, you go get this win. I think the Raiders are for real. I'm taking the points here, 3.5. There's going to be so many Raiders fans in that stadium.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be 70-30 Raiders fans, if not more.
Yeah.
LA is a Raiders city, so love the Raiders here.
I mean, that's the way it is for every team, right? Is there?
Yeah.
I mean, outside of what, the Jaguars, which home game would the Chargers have more fans in, right? So
yeah.
they're probably used to it by now. I mean, it's a gorgeous stadium. Who wouldn't want to go?
Texans, probably the Texans too.
Yeah, well, right now for sure. Maybe the Lions.
Just the AFC South in general.
I'm taking the Chargers here -3.5. I think this team is so close to being 3-0 and a convincing 3-0. But we've seen, look, last week they still won and covered, but that game should have been over even before that. They had, for the second week in a row, an illegal shift penalty take away a touchdown. And that cost them against the Cowboys, which was a difference in the win. And it almost costed them last week. So you're talking about 2 easy touchdowns taken away because of something so stupid. And I know this team is better than that, and I think it undersells how good this team can be. I also think, conversely, the way the Chargers play those 2 deep on the defense, the Raiders, one of the best things that they've done so far this season, with credit to Derek Carr, is throw deep. I think that's going to be taken away in this game. And so if the Raiders can't throw deep, or if they try and they turn the ball over, I think they're going to be in trouble. I caveat my Chargers pick with the fact that the Raiders, or really anybody so far, has been able to run on the Chargers. The Chargers probably have a bottom 5 rush defense. So if you think Peyton Barber has a good shot at 150 rushing yards, I mean, I'll get on board with the Raiders, but I think that's their path to victory. I just don't know if they'll stick to it, because he looked really good against the Dolphins last week. I wouldn't be surprised if they try the same strategy, because it's a similar type porous rush defense. But I'm going to bank on the Chargers just continuing to push that image higher and higher. And, I think they're that good.
All right, Lewis. Need a third lock out of you.
Chargers.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So I am locking the Panthers, Chiefs, and Bucks. You're locking the Jets, Patriots, and Chargers.
Right.
Thursday, I have the Bengals. You have the Jaguars. Dog of 3.5 or more to win outright. You went with the Jets. I have to pick between the Raiders, the Giants, the Panthers, or the Texans.
Ooh.
Definitely not going Texans. I don't want to go with the Panthers and root against my favorite team. So I'm going with the Giants.
Oh, wow.
It's an all New York underdog.
I thought you were going with the Raiders on that one for sure.
All New York underdog week. Highest scoring team. I won last week, so I'll go first, and I will take the Kansas City Chiefs, who have not been taken yet this year.
Oh, wow. I don't know why I'm unprepared for this. I'll take the Browns.
I think the Rams.
I'll take the Browns.
The Browns?
Yeah.
Okay. Week-to-week bet. My week-to-week bet is Brady gets his 68th passing yard on the second drive.
No.
To break the record.
Okay. I think Mac Jones throws for, what would be a surprising number to you?
Hey, this is your bet, man. Under 49?
Under 49? What?
That just broke your brain.
Yeah.
You were like,
wait, is this Justin Fields?
What did I just hear?
Man, I'm very tempted to just go under 200. Well, but that would just be too much. I think the Jets put up 24 points on the Titans. There you go. Offensive explosion.
Love the Jets this week.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a side bet. I say Chicago over 249.5 yards of offense. You say under.
Yeah. And we're going to include the net with the sacks and everything. So
it is whatever they write down for total yards.
Okay.
All right. So eliminator.
Bills for me.
Yeah, I'm going.
I'm not messing with any other team.
Oh boy, I don't know that. I like just picking against the Jets, but Titans on the road, no freaking wide receivers. That's a tough one. Just to be different from you.
I mean, why don't you say you're taking the Bills, but who would you take second? Because for me, I really don't have a second team, and that's why I'm so convinced.
Yeah,
you could make any other game on this slate. You can make a case for either team.
I guess I'm just going to take the Saints. Would be my second one, even though I just picked the Giants.
That is so
dog.
That does not make any sense at all.
I know, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't feel good about any other one. I mean, I feel great. Okay, fine. Chiefs, fine. I just don't want to use the Chiefs against the terrible Eagles.
It's your second pick. We know you want the Bills. It's your second pick.
So Chiefs.
Okay, great. Anything else before we sign off?
I just want to point out that I was 7-3 last week, and then you texted me like, "Oh, look at you," and then I promptly went 1-7. So that's on you. Or I'm sorry, I went 1-5. So that's on you. Please don't do that again. Please wait to text until we head to Sunday night game.
You forgot where I let off the day, and I said, "Good luck getting more than 2 wins this week." And
I know. Then you're like, "Oh, look at you! Look who's leading the group!"
Yeah.
And then 1.
You promptly got more than 2 wins, so I think I should get credit for the success in the first half.
I think you should just not text me until we head to Sunday night. That's what I think.
No, if you're winning the group after the early slate, you're getting a text.
I hate you. I'm just gonna mute your thread.
Okay. All right. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button and subscribe. We appreciate it. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Other than that, you can email us at 3pointplaypodcast@gmail.com. Kyle is on Twitter at KVerska7, and I'm at TPP Sweet Lou. Other than that, I enjoyed it. See you next week, Kyle.
Did you enjoy it? You enjoyed it, Lewis? I hope you enjoyed it.